In a quiet town gripped by gang activity, the sheriff's badge carries more than just authority. It's a symbol of defiance against fear. Sheriff Evelyn Carter, a calm yet commanding presence, has earned the community's trust through her courage and unwavering resolve. But when a notorious gang begins to push boundaries, sending her threats that would make most people flinch, they have no idea who they're dealing with. Evelyn isn't just a seasoned law enforcer. She's a retired commander from the U.S. Army's INSCOM, with years of experience in intelligence and counterterrorism. As the gang's intimidation tactics escalate, Evelyn's composure never wavers. What they see as an easy target is, in reality, a woman trained to outsmart and outmaneuver some of the world's most dangerous forces. But how far will they go before they realize they've underestimated her? And what will happen when Evelyn finally decides it's time to show her true strength? Evelyn's path to becoming sheriff wasn't typical. After decades of serving her country, she returned home, hoping for a quieter life. But the town she grew up in was no longer the peaceful place she remembered. Gangs had taken root, exploiting fear and silence to tighten their grip. When Evelyn ran for sheriff, she didn't do it for power. She did it because someone had to stand up. And she was more than prepared to face the challenges ahead. The gang threatening her, known as the Iron Wolves, had a reputation for brutality and intimidation. They'd never faced real opposition before, and their confidence blinded them. To them, Evelyn was just another badge. But what they didn't know was that her calm demeanor masked a sharp, tactical mind and years of experience in outsmarting opponents who made them look like amateurs. The threats were becoming personal, but Evelyn didn't scare easily. As the days passed, the Iron Wolves grew bolder. Their threats weren't just words anymore. Late one night, Evelyn found graffiti sprayed across the sheriff's office, crude warnings telling her to back off. Around town, whispers spread that the gang was plotting something bigger, a direct challenge to her authority. Evelyn stayed quiet, observing, calculating. She knew fear was their weapon, and reacting too soon would only feed their arrogance. What the Iron Wolves didn't realize was that Evelyn was already a step ahead. Old instincts from her INSCON days kicked in. She noticed patterns in their movements, subtle signs in their routines that others missed. She started connecting the dots, building a profile of their operations. But Evelyn also understood she couldn't face them alone. Quietly, she began reaching out to trusted locals, gathering information and allies who shared her vision of reclaiming the town. The gang, however, had their own plan. One night, Evelyn's patrol car was found vandalized, a chilling message carved into the hood. It was clear they were trying to corner her into a reaction. But Evelyn wasn't just playing defense. She was preparing for the moment when the Iron Wolves would learn exactly who they were dealing with. Evelyn's calm exterior masked the storm brewing within her. The gang's latest act, vandalizing her patrol car, was a clear sign they thought they had the upper hand. But what they didn't know was that Evelyn had been quietly unraveling their web of operations. Through late nights and quiet conversations, she pieced together critical details about their hideouts, their key players, and the smuggling routes they relied on. Every move the gang made brought her closer to understanding their vulnerabilities. Tension in the town reached a boiling point. Residents, once too scared to speak out, started noticing Evelyn's quiet determination. Her resolve became their hope, but it also made her a bigger target. Late one evening, Evelyn's phone buzzed with a chilling message. A photo of her house taken just minutes earlier. The message was clear. They weren't backing down. Evelyn's training kicked in. She secured her home and called in reinforcements from a neighboring county, making it look like a routine check. But in reality, she was baiting them, waiting for them to make their move. The town seemed to hold its breath, caught in the tension between the sheriff and the gang. Evelyn knew the confrontation was inevitable. She just didn't know how far they were willing to go, or how ready she truly was. Just when Evelyn thought she had the gang's plan figured out, an unexpected development threw everything off course. A young man, barely out of his teens, showed up at the sheriff's office late at night, bruised and terrified. He introduced himself as Leo, a low-level member of the Iron Wolves, and said he wanted out. His sudden appearance seemed too convenient, almost like a trap. But his story caught Evelyn's attention. Leo claimed the gang was planning something far bigger than she realized, a move to take control of the entire town by targeting critical infrastructure. He spoke in hushed tones, glancing over his shoulder as if someone might be listening. Evelyn's instincts told her to tread carefully, but there was something about Leo's desperation that felt genuine. If what he was saying was true, the gang's plans could put innocent lives in danger. As Evelyn pressed him for details, Leo revealed a new layer to the conflict. The Iron Wolves weren't just acting out of greed. Someone outside the gang was pulling the strings, supplying them with resources and information. This new revelation raised the stakes. Evelyn wasn't just up against a group of local criminals. She was facing an organized network with much more power than she'd imagined. The clock was ticking, and Evelyn had to decide whether to trust Leo or treat him as a pawn in a larger game. Meanwhile, the Iron Wolves were getting restless, their presence in the shadows growing bolder. Evelyn knew the storm was about to break, and this time it would change everything. Evelyn decided to take a calculated risk and believe Leo. His information led her to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, supposedly the Iron Wolves' meeting point for their big move. She didn't go in blind. Using her military background, she coordinated a discreet operation with reinforcements from neighboring counties, ensuring backup was positioned strategically. As night fell, Evelyn watched the warehouse from a distance. Shadows moved inside, and muffled voices confirmed the gang was assembling. With a nod to her team, the operation began. Officers moved in swiftly, cutting off every escape route. The gang was caught off guard, their confidence crumbling as they realized they'd walked into a trap. Evelyn confronted their leader, a man who had been behind most of the threats. But as she demanded answers, he smirked and uttered chilling words. "You're too late." Suddenly, Evelyn's radio crackled with an urgent message. Another gang unit had set a diversion, targeting a nearby community center. It was a desperate move, meant to split her focus. Evelyn had anticipated something like this. She had a second team already en route, led by a trusted deputy. Moments later, confirmation came. The center was secure, and the gang's secondary plan had failed. Back at the warehouse, Evelyn thought the night was over until she found a hidden room. Inside, she uncovered evidence of the outside supplier Leo had mentioned, contracts, maps, and encrypted files pointing to a larger criminal syndicate. The Iron Wolves were just one piece of a much bigger puzzle. Evelyn realized her fight wasn't over. While she had won the battle, a more dangerous enemy was lurking in the shadows, waiting for their next move. As dawn broke over the quiet town, the Iron Wolves were in custody, their operation dismantled. Evelyn stood outside the warehouse, the weight of the night settling in. She had protected her town and sent a clear message. Fear would no longer rule here. The community rallied around her, inspired by her courage and strategy. For the first time in years, there was a sense of hope. Leo, the young man who had risked everything to come forward, was placed under protective custody. Evelyn promised him a chance to rebuild his life, a second chance he'd never thought possible. But her thoughts lingered on the evidence she'd found. The shadowy syndicate pulling the strings was still out there, and Evelyn knew her fight wasn't over. As she drove home, the first rays of sunlight streaking the sky, Evelyn allowed herself a rare smile. The battle was won, and she was ready for whatever came next.